In this video, I'm going to be doing some DIY, covering up some ugly wallpaper. Make sure you stick around, and if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button below and keep an eye out for more videos. Hi, I'm Will from Surridge Tech, and today we're going to be doing some DIY. This is my first DIY video, so it's very exciting, but also quite new to me, so please bear with me while I make mistakes and forget to film parts of the process. Anyway, today we're going to be covering up some ugly wallpaper with some wooden panelling. So let's get going. As with any project, it needs to solve a problem. It's green, it's shiny, it's silver, and it's ugly, and I don't like it. But that's not the real problem. The real problem is I live in a rented house, and this wallpaper happened to be a wedding gift of my landlord. So I can't touch it, I can't remove it, I can't destroy it, I can't put any holes in it, which means I have no simple way of covering it up with the likes of giant pictures or something. And then we decided we could cover it in some wooden boards like cladding, just like this drawing. Joking aside, this was the drawing I used to build this project, but actually it's going to look a bit more like this. So as you can see, we've got a selection of vertical boards, and across the back there are two horizontal braces. These braces are resting on little cut-offs of the brace, which can be screwed directly into the side walls. That means I don't have to damage the wallpaper at all, and I can cover it up quite easily. It also gives me a fixing point for things in the future. So what did I need? Well, I got the cheapest timber I could find. These happened to be treated gravel boards at about 120 by 15 mil thick, and I needed 13 of them in the end. And then I needed two cross braces, which are 50 mil square. You also need some long screws to screw into the wall, and some shorter screws to screw the battens onto the braces. And of course, some white Dulux paint. I already had the paint and the screws, so that didn't cost me anything, but the timber itself only cost £90. We wanted the rough look, so didn't bother sanding it down or anything, we just cracked on with painting. And when I say we cracked on with painting, I was conveniently busy at the time, so I didn't crack on with any painting at all. Anyway, we gave it 2 coats, again, the royal we, but actually 1 coat would have probably done. 2 was possibly overkill for this purpose. It absorbed quite nicely and it gave a lovely finish at the end. I then cut the boards to length. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage of that, but I just used a circular saw. You could have just used a handsaw and cut them to the correct length. Next up was the wall fixings. I just got the cross braces and cut off bits at the end. I used about 45 mil as that gave me enough space for the timber to sit on top of it, and also enough space left in the screw to actually fix to the wall. I cut 4 of these. An excellent use of a coffee table as a workbench, I know. And then I pre-drilled some pilot holes through these bits of timber to make sure they didn't split. I put the screw in so the tip was just sticking out the end, and then used this to mark where I wanted the block to go on the wall. I then drilled a hole in the wall, put a raw plug in, and screwed the first block into the wall. I measured up the second block so it was at the same height as the first, and repeated the process with a raw plug and just screwing it straight into the wall. For the top fixings, I measured down from the top so that both fixings were at the same offset from the floor and the ceiling, so that the lines of screws would look reasonably symmetrical at the end. And repeated for the other last wall fixing. And then the cross battens were cut to length and just sat on top. I put a couple of small screws in to make sure they didn't fall forward when they had the weight of the boards, and just for a bit of peace of mind, but they weren't going anywhere. Before I got onto the boarding, I wanted to do a bit of electrical work. So I drilled 2 big holes in the braces and fed up some wire through to the top. It would have probably been nice to put some sockets in the faceplate of the wall, just so I had some on that side of the room, but they probably wouldn't have actually been used that much, and given it's a rented house it probably wasn't worth it. So I just did this for the lighting in the end. And now we can move on to fixing the boards to the wall. And this got very exciting because the first time I had designed my own 3D print. It might not quite be James Dyson worthy, but it was practical and useful and very exciting. It has a very simple design. The wings would sit either side of the back brace to align themselves, and then the two holes would give me the points where I need to screw. And also the width of the wings would be the gap between the boards. Unfortunately, I didn't account for quite how shiny the wallpaper was. And we tried using the jig, and the gap was just way too big. You could see every single leaf through the boarding, which was definitely not the effect we were going for. So in the end, I decided to use a coaster as my gap. This brought the gap from 15mm down to 5mm, and then I used the jig the other way around so I could still make use of it and align my screws neatly. I repeated this for the remaining boards, and then we can move on to the lights. For this, I'm going to be hanging some lanterns off some scaffold boom arms. So the first thing to do was to knock some end caps into the end of the scaff. I'd already cut these to about 1/2 metre long, so I just needed to fit some end caps. And as I learnt last time, a hammer is not a good tool to do this because they just snap in half. So I used a rubber mallet and slowly went round in circles, knocking it in gradually, and that way they didn't snap. And then with the lights, I just had to fit some hook clamps. This is just 34mm hook clamps to go with the scaff, and I just fixed them with some M8 nuts and washers and bolts and nuts and bolts and washers. I'm going to put these arms 3 boards from the edge, and for extra strength, I'm going to put them in line with the cross brace so the screws go right the way through. So here you can see me lining it up and drilling some pilot holes for those screws. I can then fix the wall bracket in and then add the boom arm and tighten the clamp onto the boom arm. Next up, I could do a bit of electrical wiring. I brought a cable back down to the floor level so I could use it easily, and I wired up the light onto the end of that cable just by removing the plugs and connecting them up with some Wagos in a maintenance-free junction box. Very simple. We can now hang the lights up, tidy away a bit of cable, set the scene, and enjoy the masterpiece. We went from this hideous eyesore to a very nice finished product, which really helps bring the room together, I think. That's just me. As I said, this is my first DIY video, so if you have any suggestions or comments you'd like to leave, then leave them down below in the comment section. And if you like it, then please hit that like button and let me know. I've got a few more projects lined up, which I'd really like to share with you if that's something you'd be interested in. So there we go. An ugly monstrosity turned into a lovely feature wall. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to find out more about my smart tech and how you can build yourself the ultimate smart home.